Okay, so I'm back. So, Facebook just cut me off. I'm gonna have another go. My name's Dion Johnson, the womanologist, strategic ally to women in senior leadership in the public sector and in the third sector. This video is entitled Wake Up! There's a fire in the basement. And before I let you know what all that is about, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. As you're coming to join this live, then go ahead and say hi to me in the chat box below and let me know what sector you work in, what industry you work in, and where you're watching from, where you're watching this broadcast from. And same goes for you if you're watching on the broadcast, on the replay. Just put hashtag replay so I can say hi to you a bit later on. My name's Dion, and this is 1 o'clock live, where we have straight talk, stories and strategies, especially for women in senior leadership who want to grow through senior leader challenges and up their influence and be more influential in their role. So today I'm talking to you about the topic, wake up, there's a fire in the basement, and just a bit of background around that. So I decided to share this story with you because this morning I was thinking about a few years back when I was asked to work in an organization who I was asked to come in and work with their senior leadership team. So there was a big senior leadership team, about maybe 20 or 25 of them, and there were 7 women in total that I was able to work with at, very personally. So we set up with the CEO. I set up that I would work with these other senior leaders in a confidential way. So that I wouldn't have to say what we were talking about in our coaching sessions. But I did have to report back to the board, and they wanted me to tell them kind of in a kind of ballpark kind of way what I was seeing as I was working with these other leaders. And I made up this story to try and help them. I'm going to share this story with you, okay? So that's the background, and the story goes something like this. Well, it's a bit of an imagination. I want you to imagine with me that in a city near you, on a very dark night, on a very dimly lit street, there was a house. And this woman number 1, was fast asleep in her bed at night, and then all of a sudden, her eyes are wide open. You know, have you ever had that happen to you where you're sleeping and then all of a sudden you're just awake? Well, that happened to this woman. She woke up and she looked at the clock, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and she thought, oh my God, I really need to get back to sleep. I've got to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh my goodness, I didn't have enough sleep last night. I need to get enough sleep tonight. And so she rolled over and she tried to go back to sleep, but it was too late. She started thinking about the row that she'd had with her husband earlier on that evening. And then she started thinking about parents' evening tomorrow night because her kids have been playing up at school. And then she thought about her boss and the unfinished project and the this and the that and her sick mum and her this and that and her health, her concerns. And before long, her mind was abuzz with all the things that she was thinking that she was affected by in her personal life and in her professional life and in her family life and in her social life. All the isms and the schisms of her being started to plague her mind, and she was awake. That was it. She was really awake. She was oblivious, though, to the house across the street. In the house across the street, there was a fire brewing in the basement, but she was so caught up with all these thoughts about what was going on with her that she just didn't have a clue that that fire existed. In the house next door to her, there was another woman number 2. And woman number 2, same thing happened. She was fast asleep, and then she wasn't. She woke up and she turned over, she looked at the clock. Oh, she said, 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got to be up at 7. Oh, God, I need to get back to sleep, but let me go to the loo first. So she jumped out of bed and she sort of moseyed on over to the window, and she looked across at the street, and she said, what's that over there? Is that a fire? What's that going on in the basement in the house across the street? And then she thought, my God, it is. It's a fire. There's a fire brewing in that basement over there. And her first instinct was to go and tell somebody about this fire. But then she thought, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just their their fire. Maybe it's their Christmas tree lights. Maybe it's not a fire. What if I'm wrong? What if I wake people up and sound the alarm and it's not right, and suppose I get it wrong? Suppose, oh no, it's more trouble than it's worth. I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to just leave it as is. So she didn't even bother to go to the loo. She just ran back to her bed, put the duvet over her head and said, just made herself ignore what she thought she'd seen. In the third house, the next house next door, there was another woman who was also fast asleep, and then also just woke up and also looked over at the clock, and it was 3 a.m. and she thought to herself, shucks, it's 3 a.m. I've got to be up at 7. I really need to get to bed. So, but you know what? I'm peckish. I'm going to go and get something to eat first. So she jumps up out of bed and she moses on over to the window, wipes the sleep out of her eyes, and then she looks across the street and she goes, shoo, there's a fire in the basement of that house across the road. Well, as soon as had got a whiff of that, she ran out of her room, dragged her coat, putting her shoes on as she's going down the stairs, running across the street. She's banging on the door of the house where there's a fire in the basement. And she's saying, wake up, wake up. There's a fire in your basement. Meanwhile, upstairs in the house with the fire in the basement was a young family. And this family, they had just gotten the kids off to sleep, and they were really in the middle of a great sleep themselves. And they heard all this commotion. The wife heard it first. She said, honey, go and see who that is banging on the door this time of the night. This time of the morning. Don't they know it's 3 a.m.? Don't they know we've got to be up at 7? So he gets up out of bed reluctantly, and he looks out the window from the upstairs, and he says, oh my God, it's that nutty cat lady from across the street. What's she doing? Like, I'm sure I told you she was mad, didn't I? I told you that the woman was mad. And meanwhile, downstairs, the woman is banging on the door saying, there's a fire in your basement. And he's saying, what? What? Go away. The woman's saying, she's going to wake up the kids. Get rid of her. She's going to wake up the kids. So this woman is banging till she's exhausting herself with the banging. And they're just trying to get rid of her. He leans out the window once and for all and says, look, get lost. She looks up at this man who she was using all her energy to try and alert to the problems that she could see brewing. And she thought, forget you, forget you. She dropped her hands beside her, lowered her head, turned around and walked back to her room, up the stairs, climbed back into bed, put the duvet over her head and said, forget you. I told that story to the board that hired me to work with their dysfunctioning senior leadership team. And I really drew their attention to each of these characters. There was woman number 1, woman number 2, woman number 3, and the people upstairs. And I said that the senior leadership team that I was working with would fit into any of those categories. The woman who was so bogged down with what was going on with her personally that she just didn't have a clue about what was going on in her street. And then the woman who lacked confidence, so that even though she was positioned as a senior leader, really was second guessing herself, worried about getting it wrong, worried about not being able to articulate herself properly, or looking a fool, or feeling ashamed, or feeling embarrassed. That was a second kind of woman. And the third kind of woman was the one who passionate about what needed to change in the industry, what was wrong. They'd say things like, we're heading for a crash, things aren't good here, this is not going to end well. But the people upstairs who had just gotten the kids off to sleep, just too tired to take anything else on, too tired to listen to the naysayers, they called them, naysayers, who always seemed to be finding something wrong with the organization or with their leadership or with whatever was going on. So my question today is, do you recognize yourself in any of the characters of this story? Because here's the thing, there is a fire brewing in your industry basement. There are volatile situations grumbling just under the surface. There are people suffering and becoming and more disillusioned and disgruntled. There's an erupting about to happen in your industry if things don't get handled. And as women in senior leadership, it's our role to get things handled. It's our role to spot those problems that are simmering away and sparking away in the basement or under the surface. So I just want you to be aware that there is a fire brewing in your industry basement, and that there is something around our responsibility as women leading in our sectors and in our industries to sound the alarm and to be about looking for innovative, creative solutions and leading the changes that will put out those fires. So I'm encouraging you to get yourself a journal. Grab a journal, get yourself into a group where you can have these kind of conversations and think about the characters of this story. Maybe you see a little bit of you in all of them, but it's good to get really clear, get aware, get conscious to where you are in the characters of this story. It's a beginning, you know, it's like the self-awareness and making decisions are the kind of beginnings, of new levels of influence, of new levels of leadership. I'm really keen to hear what you think about this story. Really, if you want to talk about it, let me know. Put your comments and your thoughts in the chat box. I'm really excited about sharing this story with you because I can't tell you how, even I had a conversation with someone this morning and, you know, I was thinking, my God, she's woman number one. She's got so much going on. She's had a bereavement. She's got some health challenges. She's been detached. A brilliant leader, but just detached with no more bandwidth to take on what's going on in her industry. I hope you can hear me and hear my heart, and I'd love to hear your comments. Put them in the box below, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Take care. Bye.